All right, welcome back to the Praxis podcast, Career Bound by Praxis. Excited to be here today. Got a good one for you, so excited to get right into it. Mitchell, I was looking over what you had sent. I'm excited to hear your perspective on it. Looking at the template now. It's a personal development project. I was hoping, we could just jump right into it. You could tell us a little bit about, why you want to talk about this, what this is, and how you see somebody might implement it in their life moving forward after watching this.
Yeah, for sure. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Talking about personal development projects. Throughout the show, we may say PDP. That's what we're referring to. But PDPs are one of my favorite ways to help someone work through a problem or to help them chart a course for the future. So anytime you feel like you're stuck in stuck in your circumstances, whether you're in a job you don't particularly love and you're trying to chart a course to the next thing, or maybe you're stuck in college and you're not really sure why you're there, what you're hoping to get out of it. You want to make progress. You want to figure it out. You want to figure out a game plan for what you're going to do. Maybe you're in a financial situation that you want to improve. Regardless, whatever the situation is, PDPs are one of my favorite tools that you can have in your tool chest to begin to help you figure out the thing that you want to improve. So PDPs, here's kind of the download about what they are, and then we'll talk about how you can use them. So a personal development project is very much that. It is a project that you do to develop in a particular area. I'll give you kind of the framework of how I like to set it up. So you pick an area that you want to improve. Maybe this is a skill you want to improve. It's a situation you want to improve, but it's some tangible thing that you want to improve. Set a time. I like to use 30 days, the 1 month cycle. I think you can accomplish a lot in a month, but I think that anytime you try to build something much further than a month, a lot of times it's not as obvious what activities you should be doing. It can become a little bit overwhelming, but 30 days is a really good time frame to set up a personal development project. It's a finite window of time, and so over the course of 30 days, it makes it a little bit easier to set up things that you can do every single day. Plus, it's a short enough time frame that you can achieve something and you can finish it and you can get to the end and you can feel like you're making progress, as opposed to like setting a 1 year project or something like this, or a New Year's resolution. We all know the stats about how people's tendency to drift off on a New Year's resolution after like maybe a month or a few weeks. And so this is why 30 days is a great start. It's also a great tool for building momentum. Again, if you set like a year-long goal, a lot of times it's easy to fizzle out, but 30 days is something where, if you're committed, it's not really that difficult to maintain discipline for a month. If you're totally undisciplined, maybe it's a huge challenge, but 30 days is an amount of time that if you are reasonably committed to improving a circumstance in your life, or reasonably committed to developing a skill, like you can stay focused and committed to something for 30 days. And if you do that, a lot of times what happens is over that finite period of time, you begin to see results. And those results become a little bit contagious. And that sets you up for extending the experiment or designing a new one. But basically, here's how I would set it up. So you pick one tangible area of your life that you want to improve. Maybe this is a financial goal you set, or a particular skill you want to develop, or a particular topic that you want to learn a lot more about. You set a time frame of 30 days, and you break down that topic into a series of activities or things that you're going to do over the next 30 days, what you want to accomplish. So let's say that let's come up with something that is a little bit easier than like finance, which maybe we can talk about money goal later. So I'll actually talk about a PDP that I did over a decade ago, like when I was first kind of breaking into marketing. I really wanted to dive deep. And so I built out a 30-day curriculum plan. In addition to that curriculum plan, I picked a handful of activities that I was going to do on a daily basis. So one of these was posting on social media, both personally and then as well for one of the businesses that I was doing marketing for. And then every week, at the end of every week, I was setting up this review. So I was going to go look at the performance of those, the engagement. I was going to go look at, what did well, what didn't do well, areas that I can improve. And then I was going to repeat that the next week. I was also sending a lot of email campaigns. And so I was doing the same thing on a weekly basis, sending email campaigns, reviewing the performance of those. But over the course of 30 days, I had like maybe 10 or 15 pretty short courses on different areas of marketing that I was going to do. And I kind of broke it down into like a 4-week deal. That's 28 days, but there are a couple extra days in there that I padded with content. And I picked those courses, areas that I really wanted to learn more about. And I kind of created a schedule for over 30 days. And then I layered in these activities that I decided to do. And I didn't really know what I wanted to accomplish at the end, other than I wanted to learn more. I wanted to deepen my understanding. I hoped that some of the things that I'd learned would make me better in my job and ultimately provide, longer term career opportunities, because, developing mastery would make me more valuable. But that's the gist of how you can structure it. What I would say is an important thing to do on this is plan to do some type of review at the end. You don't really have to have a specific goal in mind. It could be something nebulous, like I just want to learn more about this topic. But at the end, like that reflection part, I think is a really key part of a PDP. Whether you have it really structured, like what I just laid out, or you just kind of do it unstructured, like, hey, I want to learn more about this topic. I'm going to pick a few books. I'm going to try and read a little bit every single day, through these different books on this topic, maybe listen to a few podcasts. I'm not going to like create an overly detailed schedule, but I'm just going to like devote the next 30 days to learning this thing. That's great. Whatever level of detail that you feel comfortable with, just come up with, some tangible goal, some simple level of activities, and then execute that plan. And then at the end, look at your progress. Maybe you're just writing a blog post or a journaling about, here's some of the things that I learned. Here's some of the surprising things that I didn't know before that I discovered through this. Maybe you're reading through books, you're writing book reviews at the end. If you're doing a more tactical skill development over that 30 days, like I was, maybe you're building out some portfolio project of, here are some of the things that I learned, here are some of the things that I executed, and here's how those were useful to the business, or here are some of the metrics that I found. Here's how I drove performance, or whatever it is. Like, it doesn't have to be anything super structured, but I do think one of the things that most of us do is we underestimate the amount of time it takes to make progress in specific areas of our life. And I think we also underestimate the amount of time it takes to rapidly develop, or to develop a significantly higher level of mastery in a domain. I think oftentimes, especially in this world where we're all kind of accustomed to this idea of, you go to school for 18 years and then you go to college for 4 years, and then, there's endless amounts of graduate school. Like, school is this thing that takes a significant amount of time. It's very expensive.
Yeah.
But in reality, pretty much anything you want to learn in the world today, there's information out there. There's tools like ChatGPT and Grok and like all sorts of different AI tools now that weren't even around, a decade ago. And, even farther back when I was just starting out. There are so many cool tools out there that can really aid in rapid skill and knowledge development. And so 30 days is really, it seems like it's a really short time, but in reality, you can cover a lot of ground in 30 days. I'm not saying that 30 days is enough to replace like actual, years and years of actual lived real work experience or anything like that. But don't underestimate the amount of ground that you can make in short periods of time. If you focus, you get specific about what direction you want to head, what area you want to dive deep into. And if you take that seriously, and like you develop this daily discipline of doing something every day to advance in the direction you want to head. I think most people, if they did that, they would be delightfully surprised how much progress they could actually make over a short period of time, improving that one particular area they chose to focus on.
I think what's really cool about this too is just like, it's a very tangible way to accomplish goals. Like, even if in like probably its simplest form is like, it can be really easy to say, okay, I have a goal of doing X, Y, Z. So I'm going to try to do that this month. But if you don't have a plan to do it, it's a lot less likely that you're actually going to get it done. So this is like a really strong way to actually implement that process. Like, okay, like, it also makes it more palatable. Like, if you have an end goal, even at the end of that 30 days, kind of like what you're saying, like, you can, if a goal feels maybe overwhelming, you can see all the steps it's going to take to get there. And it's like, okay, well, I just need to get from A to B. Then to get from A to B, that I have enough already to get from A to B. And then once I'm at B, that'll give me what I need to build up the skills, build up the experience to get to C. And it makes it a lot more, it feels a lot more attainable, I'm sure. What are some, like, I mean, I'd be curious, yeah, like, what are some, I'd like to hear the finance example. Like, how would you apply this to like a financial situation?
Yeah, I mean, so we'll just talk about like personal finance for a second. So similar structure here. Set a specific goal, and maybe your goal is just like, I want to improve my financial standing over the next 30 days. Okay, so maybe you don't really know a ton about what you're supposed to do, but I think most people, if they sat down and were honest with themselves and diligent, some things you shouldn't do, and oftentimes that's a good enough starting point. So you shouldn't overspend. You shouldn't, you shouldn't shouldn't be careless with your money. So over 30 days, financially speaking, it's probably a lot harder to make significant amount of life-changing progress in 30 days, but you could practice. You can practice developing discipline. So maybe you set a budget. That's like one activity. You're going to do week 1. You're going to actually get serious. You're going to pull all your numbers in. You're going to build out a budget. And then over the course of 30 days, one activity you're going to do every day is you're going to log into your bank or credit cards or, anywhere that you have money, and you're going to track. You're going to look at what's happening, and you're going to log any money that's going out, any money that's coming in. And you're going to like build a spreadsheet tracking all of those things. And you do that every day for 30 days. Maybe you set some goals that, over the course of 30 days, I'm going to try and save, let's say it's like $100 your first month. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, especially if you feel like you don't really have a handle on your money, or you're in a bad financial situation, or just a situation where you'd like to improve it. And you go from a world where you don't really know your financial standing to you're just trying to like get a handle on it and be a little bit more informed so you can actually start making progress. Like my famous Peter Drucker quote is like, you can't manage what you don't measure. And so maybe your first month is just like, I'm going to go from being totally ignorant about what's happening, how I'm spending my money, where it's going, to over the next 30 days, I want to get a handle. I want to be smart. I want to understand. And if I do that over the next 30 days, then the second 30 days or the time after that, like I feel like I will be in a better spot to set even better goals. Like it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but I think even an activity like that, for somebody who doesn't have a ton of context about how they're using their money, even simple activities like that, you will learn a ton. You'll learn a ton about your spending habits that you probably do unconsciously. Like you're making, you're racking up small expenses you don't really acknowledge. One activity I always like to do when I'm helping people kind of get introduced to personal finance is, this is a fun little exercise from back in the days when I was working in financial advising spaces. Start by making a budget without looking at any of your numbers. How much money do you think you spend every month? How much money do you think is coming in? Without pulling your pay stubs, without looking at your bank account or credit card transactions or statements or anything like that. Just like how much, what's your monthly gross or after tax income that hits your bank account? Guess. okay, how much money do you spend on rent? How much money do you think you spend on transportation? How much money do you think you spend on groceries, on eating out or dining out, on entertainment, on subscriptions? Like, make that list with your best educated guess, and then go pull your numbers and repeat the exercise. I think that honestly, anytime that I ever did that exercise with people, anytime I've ever done this with myself, in periods of time where I wasn't being this disciplined with my budget, it's like always surprising. It's like, you think we always think we're better than we really are. It's like, oh yeah, I'm really good. Here's what I actually, and then you pull the numbers and it's almost astonishing. And I think that if you're doing exercises like that, even over the course of 30 days, maybe you don't significantly improve your financial standing over the first 30 days, but what you did gives you the tools to improve your financial standing substantially over a longer period of time, because what you did over that 30 days is you really focused on developing your financial literacy. And maybe it's not, total knowledge of the stock market or budgeting best practices, but you deeply developed an understanding of your own personal financial situation that you lacked prior to that 30 days. So that's where I would start. If you're in a state of total ignorance about your personal financial standing, that's where I'd start with like a 1 month PDP. And obviously, the more sophisticated and more in control and on top of your finances you are, the more sophisticated your 1 month goals could become.
Okay, so I wanted that was helpful. Honestly, I think I'm probably gonna do that like for myself, because I think it's probably a really great way to like take a nice big look at what you have going on. So that got me thinking a little bit though about how because you mentioned one earlier that if I was, let's say, maybe a freshman in college, so it's my first year, I'm about halfway-ish through my first semester, and I just met you at like a, I don't know, like a coffee shop or something. We ended up having a conversation, and I was kind of like, yeah, you told me a bit about Praxis or just like different routes, like, because I shared a little bit, I want to own my own business one day, or, I'd like to, be in sales or marketing. And so you were sharing a little bit about Praxis. And then I asked, like, okay, well, like, how do I know, like, how can I make a confident decision? Like, I've always been told college is like the best path for me, and, this, and that. I'm supposed to go to a good school. How would you like, what would a PDP look like for, okay, over the next 30 days, how can I figure out like the best path for me and weigh whether or not like it makes sense to stay going to college, or if I could do it without going and be better off, if that even makes sense.
Yeah, so let's work with that scenario. So what are some things that you could do? How could a PDP be useful for you in that situation? So I'll put on the shelf like a lot of the advice I'd probably pour out into somebody in that particular situation. We'll focus on kind of the practical, actionable use of a PDP to help somebody figure out their way out of that situation. So I might suggest a few different things. Like, on one level, just journal every day for 30 days. Like, are you happy? Like, journal about your circumstances. What do you like about, your current circumstances? What don't you like? Get specific. Like, try and really understand why you may or may not find value in the current situation, and understand, like, hey, here are the good parts. Here are the parts that I can't stand. Are those actually worth it? Do I want to continue to see these through? Am I comfortable with what it's costing me to be here? Are you taking on debt? Are your parents providing, financial support? Are you working? You working to cover the cost of college? Like, spend 30 days for somebody that's in that situation. I think getting honest with themselves is probably as good as anything. It is kind of like a foundational move. A lot of times, I think a PDP focused on something like that can be useful, where you're just spending a month focused on getting honest with yourself about the things that are causing your discomfort or suffering. And it doesn't always have to be this specific thing about, like, hey, here are the skills that I want to build. A lot of times, it's those deeper underlying um, unaddressed issues that I think are probably roadblocks to making a lot more progress. And if you're able to deal with those, then you can make a lot more progress. Outside of the personal psychological element of being in that situation, let's talk about some tactical, actionable things that you could do. So, if you said that this student expressed an interest in entrepreneurship or starting a business someday. So one PDP might be, okay, over the next 30 days, you're going to reach out to 5 people every single day for 30 days. So maybe that's a combination of like going door to door to businesses in the area where you're going to college, trying to talk to a manager or owner, trying to get in front of an entrepreneur. You're not making any type of ask of like, hire me. You're just trying to interview people. You're just trying to get their advice. Hey, how did you start your business? How did you get into, this world? What made you want to start a business? What was the path you took to get there? What were some of the things that you learned the hard way? What skills have you had to develop? What were some of your first jobs? What are some things that you would recommend to somebody in my shoes who has this longer term aspiration that I can be doing now? Like, go have those conversations. So go knock on doors at local businesses, go get on LinkedIn, send a bunch of cold messages, tell people, hey, I'm a student. I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. I'm just looking for some advice. Can I buy you coffee? Can I borrow 15 minutes of your time? Not just to pick your brain, but I have a specific thing that I could use some insight on. A lot of people are going to ignore you. That's totally fine. But I think if you do that, you do that diligently every day for 30 days, if you do it at a high enough volume, you're going to have at least a handful of conversations, and hopefully those are fruitful and they give you some actionable information. So there's one activity. You could also do maybe a different twist on that same thing. What are the things that are already interesting to you? If you have an expressed interest in entrepreneurship, there's probably some things that inspired that. Okay, what made you interested in that in the first place? Was there somebody in your life that you saw and they were a role model and you saw what their life looked like or what their business looked like, and that's what made you interested? Were there particular skills or things that jumped out at you that you thought, hey, that's cool, I'd love to learn more about that? Break those things down and then find people who are doing those specific things, whether it's running this type of business or they are in this particular type of career in this particular, using this type of skill, and find those people, those job titles, reach out to them on, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, locally. I think if you're at university, I guess you could go talk to professors in those areas. Most of them probably have limited experience actually doing, real world work in those fields. Probably very few that have actually run real businesses, but like, you never know. Maybe they are, or maybe they have access to other people who have actually gone and done that, and they can put you in touch. And like, if you're already paying the tuition dollars, might as well try and take advantage of those things. But I think for 30 days, you can make a lot of ground just trying to gather more information. I would say in that particular situation, I would also, I would also say, like, you don't have to set a goal of putting this intense amount of pressure on yourself to say, hey, at the end of 30 days, I'm going to know whether I want to stay in college or drop out. I think that's maybe creating an unreasonable ultimatum for yourself that most students who are in college, there's already a ton of pressure. You can put a lot of psychological pressure on yourself. I'd say unless there's some kind of external factor at play, like there's an ad drop date that's approaching 30 days out, where that's your last day to get all or most of your tuition back. Like, unless you have something like that is creating some sense of urgency, I would say don't give yourself that pressure. If you're already kind of mid-semester and there's no way you can get your money back anyway, like, take advantage of this time.
Yeah.
The money's already burned. Give yourself till the end of the semester, and maybe you have the opportunity, if you've got 2 or 3 months left to work with, maybe you're stacking 2 to 3 months of deliberate activities like this, deliberate projects, where 30 days at a time, you're trying to tackle a different thing. So like month 1, you're kind of doing this journaling exercise plus reaching out to a bunch of people. Everything that you learn, You're kind of reflecting on that, and then you're using that to create a plan for the next month. Maybe in month one, you find, hey, this person, here's the path that they took, and here's some skills that they built, and that really fired me up. I want to learn more about that. So month two, I'm going to spend 30 days diving deeper into this particular skill, how people break into this career path, what things I can begin doing to familiarize myself with that career path, maybe some online courses that I can take. I can continue to reach out to people over the course of month two. And then by the end of month two, you've now not only got sort of this inspiration and you've dug deeper and you're excited about this thing, and you've begun to at least get some type of fuzzy roadmap of the things that you would need to do in order to access this type of career path. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Now you got month three. Now you're going to focus on building a roadmap to that. And you can sort of extend the time frame for asking that bigger question of, okay, I'm in college. I'm rounding up the last month of my first semester here. I now know what I want to accomplish. Now I can make a more informed decision about whether college is the best route to help me get there, or if based on everything that I've learned over the past 60 to 90 days, maybe there is a better, more direct route to what I want. Like that could be a really good way to stack PDPs. And that's kind of the final point that I wanted to make sure that we got to in this podcast is one 30-day challenge is great. You can make a lot of progress, but really we talk about compounding a lot on this show. And I think that's where the power of compounding, you can really see it accelerated over a short time frame in your personal and professional life is you're stacking these deliberate, call them these reconnaissance missions. You're stacking these 30-day reconnaissance missions, sequentially, and you are rapidly iterating. Here's 30 days. I learned this thing, and that helped me set the focus for the next 30 days. And then over the next 30 days, I have a better, roadmap. And I'm doing that over and over and over again. And I'm not just continuing to drift through life, but every 30 days, the information that I collect over the past 30 days, I'm using that to inform my decision about what I'm doing for the next 30 days. There's no better time in your life that type of pace is really, really useful. And it's not totally disruptive than when you're in your late teens, early 20s, when you're kind of in that phase where everyone's expecting you to be in this kind of phase of your life where you don't really have it all figured out. You're just kind of like going through the motions, whether you're in college and just kind of in a holding pattern for 4 years, or you're not going to college and you're just kind of like, people are probably wondering why you're not in college, but nobody has like really high expectations for you. But it's not weird. And there's not like, it's not taboo for you to be changing directions over a short period of time. Once you start to get in your, again, this is less age bound, but to some degree it's age bound. When you start to get a little bit older, and if you also begin to stack on some additional responsibilities and obligations, so you get a little bit older, your cost of living goes up. Maybe you're married, you have kids, you have a mortgage, you have all these other things that it's a little bit harder to like turn the Titanic on a dime over the course of 30 days. But when you're young, your cost of living is low. Maybe your biggest thing, if you're not enrolled in college, like maybe your biggest concern is whether you can break a lease or not. Like you don't have a ton of things that are like holding you in place. And so this rapid iterative process is something that you can really take advantage of early on in your professional life and adult life. And so that's where I think if you're deliberate about it, you don't have to build out this 1-year plan. You can take it 30 days at a time, and then understand if you take that seriously, you're going to learn some stuff, and that'll be useful that you can apply to the next 30-day experiment.
This whole thing is kind of making me think about just the life, like the generally accepted life philosophy that I think is wrong, not just wrong, but not necessarily wrong. What I mean is that it's limiting. The idea that like you have to, okay, you're going to go to school when you're a kid, and then you get older, you keep going to school, and then you're going to go to college, and then you're going to go to more school, and like during that time you're going to decide what you want to be, and that's final, and like you're just going to ride that off into the sunset, like, and then also there's going to be debt and all this crazy stuff in the meantime. But just the like thinking, like using that thinking pattern of like thinking in ultimatums, like, okay, like this is kind of opposite that, and it's much more freeing and it's much more effective. So I think that particularly like, high school kids, like, approaching college, and that's what they're being pushed towards, is like, there is an immense, they put on themselves and that's put on them by others around them, just to, like, all this pressure to, I got to make these big decisions. And like right now at 18 or 17, I have to decide, what I'd like to do for the rest of my life, for like most of the hours during my day. I have to pick that, and I have to know. And it's kind of silly because for the most part, the average 17-year-old in America hasn't really experienced anything. And I don't mean that as like a disparaging thing. I mean that as like, you just haven't had the opportunity to go and like have unique experiences. Everything has been cookie cutter factory. Like, and I'm speaking, this is not at anybody. This is me. Like, like I'm sure I had different unique experiences here and there, but for the most part, I was a public school kid and had a very manufactured, factory produced experience. So like, I didn't know what I wanted to be. It was just like, I don't know, like, I guess because people say I'm a smart kid or I'm supposed to do this, I'm just gonna go do this. Like, I'll go to business, or I went to a liberal arts school, so I was there for applied economics, which was just liberal arts for business. So like it's just like that whole thing was making me think, this is a great way to start building a habit of just start being more intentional with your decisions. And that way you could be excited about what you're doing. You don't feel like you have to make these huge, crazy long, like, you can make a decision to do something that at the end of the 30 days, like, the result of that decision, and then you can make a new one. It's kind of like, I think it's a really great way to start building that thought process of hey, like, you haven't even had the opportunity, like, you haven't even gotten the chance to have like these great experiences where you can know what makes sense for you, what you're excited about. This is a great way to start doing that, no matter what like life situation you're in. So I think this is really cool, and I think somebody could take this and implement it right away.
Totally. I mean, I think there are a lot of similarities to the path that I just laid out to kind of the startup world of finding product market fit. This is something that I think is really, really relevant for most young adults who are trying to figure it out. They lack clarity about their future or the direction that they want to head. Is think about it in these terms. Like, you are trying to find your personal market fit. And so what that means is you're trying to find the environment where what you have to offer is something that other people want. It's something that you are reasonably good at and reasonably enjoy, or at bare minimum, it's tolerable for you. You don't hate it. So something that you're reasonably good at, somewhat enjoy, or find fulfillment from, and other people want. That's just like a business trying to find, hey, I'm solving this problem for this set of people at this price. Like, that's what you're trying to do in your career, is you're trying to find the thing that really fires you up, the thing that other people want, that they will pay you for, that you can build a life and an income around, and a life that is sort of the representation of what you want it to be. And it's the failure rate of businesses is astonishingly high. It's something like 99% of businesses fail within the first 5 years, or something akin to that level of significant failure rate. The same thing is true for most people in their careers. Is most people fail to choose the right career their first time, and that's okay. Like, you go, if you walk down the streets and you interviewed people, or like call 20 people in your phone list of phone contacts who are already out, in the working world, and ask them, hey, are you doing the thing that you wanted to do when you were 18? Is the career that you're in right now, is it what you thought that you were going to be when you were a kid? Like, you're going to hear all sorts of answers about how most people change their mind, or they're a failure according to their 16, 17, 18-year-old self. And they may have a life that they think is successful, but according to this presupposed idea of what they thought they were supposed to be at age 17, 18, when they didn't have a ton of context, ton of experience, like, they didn't achieve that. They went a different direction. And what happened is, if you really unpack those stories, you're going to find that they set out on their journey to do this thing. And on the path to that thing, they realized either, hey, I don't really like this as much as I want, or maybe I'm not willing to bear the costs that it's going to take to be this thing. Or, hey, I found this other thing that I'm even more excited about. I want to take my career and life in that direction instead. Or life happened to me and it derailed me, and then I found myself on this other path. There's all these different sort of root causes that I think that contribute to people changing directions. But if you talk to most people, there's this recurring theme that people change their minds as they are. It's totally reasonable to do this. As you gain more context, you gain more knowledge, you gain more life experience, you learn more about the things that excite you. You learn more about the things that other people want. You learn more about what you're good at and what you may enjoy doing. And then what opportunities are out there for you to capitalize on all those things. And people's lives and careers tend to evolve over time. Some people kind of stop midway, where they find something that at least pays the bills and they just stop worrying about all those other things. Maybe they don't really find that personal market fit, but they find something that's like good enough, and they just kind of drift through the rest. But I think for most people, that if their hierarchy of values is, I want to find something that's fulfilling, that also satisfies my income goals, that also helps me live out my values, that also helps me, actualize my potential, then you're going to continue to conduct this process a little bit more deliberately if you're dead serious about achieving these things. And I think PDPs, you start by making these experiments 30 days at a time to gain knowledge and information about the paths that you think you're interested in and their skills you think you want to develop. And you never know what you're going to learn when you begin to take that approach. You may find something totally different that takes you in a different direction. But as you gain more experience, you gain more context, you gain more skills that are valuable over time. Those PDPs may make sense to continue doing, but over an extended time horizon. You may be taking a career opportunity where you're approaching it now instead of a 30-day cycle of, okay, I'm going to give this the next 12 months, or I'm going to give this the next 2 years. I think 12 months of time is a reasonable time frame. And for the next 12 months, I'm going to go all in on this thing. I'm going to learn, maybe even within that year, you're breaking down some specific skills you want to develop that'll help you perform better at that job.
Yeah.
But you're extending the timeline of your experiment now because you have pretty high conviction that that's the thing that you want to do. And at the end of that year, you're kind of making that same assessment and reevaluation. You're reflecting back on how you spent the past year. Am I still excited about the work that I'm doing? Am I proud of the output? Do I feel like I'm doing my best work? Do I feel like I'm growing? Do I feel like my skills are getting better? Do I feel like my network is improving? Do I feel like my life is more of what I wanted to be this year than it was 12 months ago? And you're making that same decision. Do I continue down this path, or do I take a detour and I go do the next thing? You don't always have to know what that next thing is. But again, PDPs, it's not just about this 30-day project. I really think that it is a foundational framework for how to make progress in your life when you're maybe unsatisfied about a particular dimension.
Yeah, it's really good. I imagine it's got a ton of use cases even outside of like everything we've talked about, like outside of finance or career or just like, life direction. Like you could probably make it work for, like, heck, you could probably make it work for like relationships. Like, okay, wife, like, let's sit down and do a PDP for like where we're going, like where our marriage is going. Like, I'm sure, Mitchell, you could probably you could turn PDPs into a counseling business. Like, we do all kinds of counseling over here. We do marriage counseling, financial consulting. It probably works.
Yeah, it's not really my bread and butter here, but I mean, yeah, applied to relationships, you could do something like, hey, we're gonna focus on improving our communication over the next 30 days. We're gonna focus on making decisions as a team over the next 30 days. We're gonna focus on, being deliberate about spending more quality time together over the next 30 days. Like any number of the sun. Like, I'm not telling you, hey, here's the specific rules. What I'm telling you is if you are curious, you're deliberate about making progress, and you're intentional, like, you can sit down and in probably 30 to 45 minutes, you can come up with some really good ideas about things that you could probably do, and equally things that you could stop doing over the next 30 days to improve your circumstances along a specific dimension in your life.
Yeah. This is really great. I don't have any more like specific questions about it. I'd like to implement it, actually. Like, I'd like to just apply this to my finances at the very least. But so unless you had anything else to close, I think this was really solid. I'm excited to watch it back and and use it.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back again soon with, more on all sorts of topics related to personal, professional development for the young adult, young professional. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a comment below, shoot us an email, playbook@Discover Praxis, subscribe and follow along, or email us if you have future topic ideas. But as always, it's a pleasure. And we look forward to sharing more again with you soon.